to the People by People podcast with me, your host, Laura Sutherland. This is the final recording of the People by People podcast in 2020. 2020, the year that we can probably all say cheerily goodbye to, put in a time capsule, bury and never dig up again. But today I'm really pleased to be welcoming a good friend who has been supportive of me in the last year and through COVID, and someone who has done exceptionally well starting a business, and someone who has had fantastic news recently. And I'm delighted to welcome to the show Darryl today from Hard Numbers. Welcome.
Hi, Laura. Lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me along.
First of all, congratulations on the arrival of your son. How is he?
Thank you. Yeah. Little Hudson Gapstow Sparey was born early hours of Saturday morning. There was a few difficult days where he was in the NICU after he joined us, but he is home now with my fiance Rachel, and he couldn't be more wonderful. He's sleeping well, he's feeding well, he's doing all the other things that babies should do, and we're delighted. So thanks for asking.
And is Halia the doting big sister?
Oh man, yeah. She's again, we're so fortunate. She wasn't sure at first. For maybe the first kind of half hour, she was like, "Who's this?" and why are they here and all the rest of it. But no, I mean, you will see plenty of baby spam pictures of Alia and Hudson together over the course of the next few weeks. But no, they're both, she seems to have taken really, really well to it so far, touch wood. Doesn't seem to be jealous of anything, and seems to be very doting and affectionate towards him. So yeah, again, very, very fortunate.
She's at a good age where she can help out by bringing stuff over, like nappies and like clothes and things like that, when you're like, oh, I can't quite reach, oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not always helpful, she'll bring over things that she maybe wants to play with rather than things that we necessarily need in that moment of time. But she's great. And I know this year has been an incredibly difficult year for lots of people for lots of different reasons. But I think one of the positives that I'll look back on this year is the amount of time that I've been able to spend with my family. In the normal course of things, I'd be in London 4 days a week, and then sort of, getting a train back on a Thursday afternoon to then spend the weekend in Bournemouth with the family. And I'm not, I get to see the family every single day. I get to do bed and bath time. I've got to see Halia go from crawling to walking. She says "Daddy" now. Lots of stuff like that. So that has been a real blessing. I know it's tough times for lots of people for lots of different reasons, but in that regard, for us, it's been a gift.
Oh, so yeah. It would be great to talk all about Hard Numbers, but I know that you've spoken on a couple of podcasts about the sort of rationale behind it and everything. But it'd be great to hear a bit about your journey since you started it. You started an agency, clear purpose, which is just brilliant. How have you found the last wee while? What have your challenges been as well?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking, and thanks for the kind words about the business. I think I think I described us just now just before we started as a bit of a swan, right? And I'd imagine that anyone who started their own business at any time can associate themselves with something like that. In that, maybe from the outside it looks like everything's gone swimmingly well, and we've been very fortunate with some of the clients that we've managed to pick up and work with, and some of the new services and things that we've launched, and some of the coverage that we've garnered, and things like that. But definitely there has been a lot of hard work that's gone into that by me, by my business partner Paul, and by the team. There's been ups and downs. There's been periods of time where we've definitely bitten off more than we can chew, and we haven't, touch wood, lost any clients yet or anything like that as a result of anything that we've done. But there have definitely been periods of time where we have been very, very busy, and we probably should have been more sensible about how we paced things, both for the agency and for our team and for ourselves. You know, my business partner Paul is becoming a lot better at saying no to me, which is really, really valuable, and I really, really respect it and value it, because I have a natural, I'm probably an optimistic pessimist, but more like at the optimistic end of the scale than the pessimism end of the scale. So I'll normally, my first response to things will normally be, yes, how can we do it? And then Paul will be the one to go, actually, should we think, how can we do it? And maybe the answers are maybe, or maybe the answers are no. And I've come to really value that.
But then I think that's the thing about business partners. You need to complement each other, and that sort of the balance of the skills and the experience and the passion and the pessimism and optimism is all part of that, and that's what makes the magic, essentially, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you, Laura, I have a renewed, I mean, as if I didn't respect them enough already, renewed huge admiration and respect for people like yourself, or people like John Brown, or, you know, people like that who've all gone out and started things completely on their own, or, you know, the stuff that Stephen Wallington's been doing, or Andrew Block, or other people that I know who've basically just gone out and done things on their own. I don't think I'm not. As evidently, and Paul will tell you very happily, I'm not well-rounded enough, either as an individual or in terms of my skill set, to be able to do something on my own. I need people like Paul and other members of the team around me. So I have huge admiration for anyone who starts their own business.
Don't put yourself down, because you have the ambition. That's the thing, you have the ambition, and I think that's half the battle. People that don't have the ambition and don't have the passion won't make it work. I found that out with, you know, and that's just even, you know, members of staff, members of the team, clients that you work with. If they're not fully into it, then, you know, I don't really want to work with half-hearted people either, do you?
No, it's do you know what someone said to me a very, very long time ago? You'll never understand this, Darryl, but there are some people in the world who just go to work to like earn money, to then go home and read books, or play tennis, or smoke weed, or do whatever the thing is, right? That's their passion and their thing that they have in life, right? Because work isn't the thing, their passion, right? And I didn't understand that when I was 22, when I was running my own business the first time around, and I don't understand that now. You know, I probably don't have good enough delineation between work and life, quote unquote, and I probably do see the things as being kind of completely one part of a piece, right? I define myself, I derive my self-worth from, you know, my professional endeavors, definitely. So I'm not very good at it, you know, and I do struggle sometimes to and that, again, that Paul is a lot more practical about stuff like that, and making me think like, you know, I hope I'm never difficult with people or anything, but Paul's, you know, will message me and say, Darryl, you do realise you're emailing at 6 a.m, and I never expect a reply at that time from anyone. It's just that's when I'm doing it, and that's when I think of it, and I have started
schedule email instead.
I know I've got to do that. You know, because I'm always thinking about something, and I just think, oh yeah, crikey, I should do something about that.
That's entrepreneurial spirit. That's what I call entrepreneurial spirit, because you're thinking about the opportunities. You're getting excited by things you've learned, or things you think, oh, I could do that, and then I could do that. I suppose it's kind of a bit of the shiny, which is great, but then you've got Paul, who kind of maybe takes a little bit of the shiny off it, and maybe reveals what's actually underneath.
yeah, exactly. He's the one who goes, right, that's only shiny because it needs a lot of polish, and that comes with a lot of elbow grease, you know.
But so obviously you started your business, COVID hit, you've now had a baby, and I think it'd be really interesting to explore where you know, you're right in it right now. As we're recording this podcast, you've literally just brought a baby home, and you have an amazing family, but you have a business, and you're going to take pat leave. I'm interested from a guy's perspective what that's like.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, the first time I took pat leave when Halia was born, when I was at Hotwire, and, you know, huge shout out for for Hotwire as an agency. They're tremendously, amazingly supportive of mothers and fathers who want to take time off for children. You know, many of the staff at Hotwire work flexibly, you know, don't work full, you know, 5 days a week, you know, 9 to 5, you know, that it's embedded in the culture of that business. They were very, you know, I was, you know, sort of dragging myself back to the office sooner than maybe they thought I should come back. But I remember my first day back in the office for paternity leave, first time round, I was like, I love work. And I was like, I don't want to be here. I'd much rather be at home. I'd much rather be with my family. I sort of couldn't remember what it is that I did. You know, my granddad would tell you that's because it isn't that important as a thing. But, you know, I found it really tough. And I think this time round, I think because we're at home all the time, you know, someone said to me the other day, we're not working from home, we're living at work. And, you know, that is definitely something to bear in mind. But I think because I'm here now and I'm with the family kind of full time, hopefully I'm able to be more flexible about it, both easing myself into paternity leave and then easing myself back out the other side.
Yeah.
And hopefully we use it as a firewall to create a natural break between maybe how hard I've been working and how many hours and stuff I've been working, to maybe when I come back kind of reset things. Because we've got, you know, a team now, you know, we've got it's not just sort of me and Paul, you know, we've got 7 or 8 staff, you know, we've got you know, freelancers that work with us on a sort of you know, kind of part-time basis as well. So we've got people that can shoulder the burden of the work through the agency. And definitely when I come back the other side of paternity leave, I definitely want to use it as an opportunity to not work as hard and be as kind of full on as I was previously. Use it as an opportunity to have that break.
I think that's one thing that you know, you touched on it earlier, like, you know, some people have had a really, really rubbish time working from home and being at home through COVID, and especially when it was a hard lockdown and you couldn't go out and do anything. You know, you've mentioned that, you know, you were in a fortunate position. I've also been in a fortunate position I was already working from home. I wasn't having to adapt, and I love working from home. I've got everything here. It's a dedicated space where, you know, everything happens. And but when I suppose you kind of think about the future, you know, looking into maybe and I hate to say it, folks, but looking into this time next year when things might be changing, I don't see much happening before that. You know, nobody can predict, obviously, but I really, really don't. Maybe in a year's time when things are starting to change, I hope that people have learned about the work-life balance challenges and how they can personally overcome that. Jenny Field and Sarah Isle were writing about taking the time to have their exercise and how important it is, but not choosing to do it in the morning or at night. Do both. Do one before work, so you're up, you're ready, start you off for the day, and then do one at the end of the day. And it's 2 different forms of exercise, but you're getting to do both. I just think that sort of mindset is where I think that could really help other people, like, deal with life, work, challenges, headspace, dreaming, ideas, all of that type of stuff.
I joined the large and ever-growing club of people who own a Peloton during I know. But I've only had it for like 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, and not long. But so this is a relatively small sample size. Well, that's the thing. So there was about a week where I was on it every day, and I was absolutely loving it, just like everyone else. Yeah, I haven't heard of anyone who, when you actually get over the hump of buying the ruddy thing, getting it installed in your house, buying the shoes and all the other accoutrement that you've got to do with it, because it's a bit of a faff, and like learning about it and, you know, following people who are into it or whatever, it's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. And I know Jenny's been very keen on exercise and promoting the benefits of exercise and things like that. And I definitely felt exactly the same way. And I know I am more productive and weirdly more productive and more energized, and I'm just better at doing what I do on a daily basis. When I've given over half an hour to 45 minutes in the morning for exercise. And I definitely, once I'm back at work and once we settle into a rhythm with the little one, with the family and stuff like that at home, I definitely want to be making the time to do Peloton every day. And that I started mixing up and doing some in the morning and some in the afternoon and things like that. And I really enjoyed that as just as a way of making time for myself to do something else that wasn't, working at a laptop for hours and hours and hours on end. It was great. So yeah, absolutely, huge, really, really big believer in that, and a big thanks to one of my clients, Mark Pell, who's CTO of Temp Cover, and Nigel Walsh from Deloitte, and Alex Myers from Manifest, who all talked me into buying a Peloton, and Natasha Plowman as well, who talked me into buying a Peloton.
Darryl's genuine love for the Peloton is definitely not an ad. Please note.
It was the best, definitely the top 20 best decisions I've made in my life.
Really? Well, there we are. It's a good advert for Peloton. I was just thinking, we in the industry were quite critical of Peloton when they came out with that ad, and we thought, well, is that going to damage the brand? I don't think it has damaged the brand. People are still buying the product.
Yeah, I think it was a weird, rare misstep for a brand that has been to date so confident and so, great in its communications. And I think, we launched it, Hard Numbers, a community as a service offering to clients, which is basically, we will set up and run communities on your behalf because you're busy marketers who haven't got time to, on top of all the other things you're expected to do, build a community online of customers and prospects and things like that. And one of the definite factors in us deciding to do that was the success of brands like Peloton that have really built themselves off the back of community. If you look at Peloton, Peloton is probably the greatest example I can think of community marketing. In place. The way that they have built and continue to build and use community as a flywheel to just keep bringing more and more users into the fold and evangelizing, doing the selling for Peloton.
That's a brand theme, isn't it?
Absolutely. No one had to phone me up from Peloton because I had, senior marketing and PR, professionals selling Peloton to me on a daily basis on Twitter.
And I think the word community is quite often misused and people sort of band it around. But I certainly think that in what we do in public relations, community has to be built into what we are doing for our clients. It's not just engagement. I don't think that's enough anymore. We're building brand ambassadors. We want that loyalty and that trust, and that sort of community aspect is really, really important because like the gym then reopens, they then get people like me, part of the community, banging down the door, when can I come in? When can I start training again? I've missed it for 6 months. It's been horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at, gyms are a great example. A friend of mine does marketing for a gym not too far from where we live in Bournemouth, and he's very quickly moved to running online, getting their PTs to run online training, sessions for people, producing content, video content that they've been sharing on their channels through the lockdown period to get people to continue to be staying physically active and working out and keeping an interest in their hobbies and things like that. They've got a lot of tennis courts there, and they've been running, online training sessions on, helping people kind of perfect particular tennis strokes and things like that, through repetition. And I think that's all really, really good. That's all great. So great examples to your point of kind of community marketing in action.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how, in fact, both an example, you and John recently at Don't Cry Wolf have separated out two things that I would have probably just assumed that would have been included within like a service from a public relations agency. You guys from community building and Joan from a video production side of things. This is a great wee platform, isn't it, for giving you guys shout outs?
But, John, he's got a special place in my heart. So
we bromance still.
Yeah.
I think that's what intrigues me now, and maybe this is something that you've maybe thought of or you've heard of before. So somebody said to me one day, do you think that the way that you think and the way that you operate and how you work is like standard practice and that you don't really need to talk about it very much? And I said, yeah, I work in public relations. I do things slightly differently. I think slightly differently. And that's what everyone, that's our own superpowers, I like to say. But yeah, pretty much, we're all trying to, protect reputation, build brands, effectively build the bottom line, etc. And she said, well, that's where you're wrong, because maybe to the industry or some people at your level in the industry, that might be the case. But to more junior people and to businesses externally, they don't know how your brain works and how public relations works, and that those things are part of what you could be doing for them. And this is something that I started to unearth recently with some of my private client work and mentoring, is that we don't necessarily tell people the ins and outs of what we do in a very clear way. And I think that's great that you guys have gone and done that, because I would just have assumed that people knew stuff like that, and then you're missing a trick. But then I think that's what these businesses need to hear.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the correlative that I always point to when people talk about this in our industry is Moz, which is a SEO, originally an SEO business, that they're now basically an SEO tools business. They created the term, domain authority, all the rest of it. The guy who set that business up, Rand Fishkin, I love my books, brilliant book, Lost and Founder, which is all about his experience of being a high growth tech startup founder. Absolutely brilliant book. He's an amazing guy, well worth a follow. He's the most followed person on Twitter by CMOs.
Yeah. I would believe that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. He used to do these things, and they've carried on doing them because they're so successful at Moz, called Whiteboard Fridays, where basically every Friday for like.
They stopped that for a while. I was gutted.
Well, it's because Rand obviously had left, and he'd recorded a load, like a backlog, because he started his own business up, Spark Toro, and then Brittany Muller, who I've met, I think she did quite a few of those. But yeah, I think they stopped them because they didn't have so many kind of pre-recorded or in the tank or whatever, and everything else. But brilliant piece of content marketing. But also, to your point, that completely open and transparent about how they do what they do, radically transparent in a way that is interesting and of value and all the rest of it to other people. And I definitely think, the SEO industry, you look at the digital PR, there's a lot of very radically transparent, companies out there, like Propellernet, like Seven, like those guys who are really open and honest about how they do what they do and how they get the results they do and all the rest. And I think it's brilliant, and I think we should learn more about that and apply that to the industry. When John started Don't Cry Wolf, he used to do a brilliant video series, and he won't tell you this, but it was my idea, right? Because I'm like, John, you're such a charismatic, such an interesting guy. You need to scale you up. And you need to do something like a Whiteboard Friday where you basically talk to people.
I remember his videos.
Yeah, they're brilliant, right? So funny as well, the production values. When he did one once for Hotwire, because that was when I sort of tried to get to do it as a series. But the production values were terrible. Like it was really, really bad, right? But they're not Hotwire's fault, just the way it went. Then, though, when he left and set up his own agency, the production values of his own video, when it was his own thing and it was his money, were amazing. Yeah. He looked fantastic. He was in a three-piece suit. He had these beautiful pictures behind him that his kids drew. It was so funny how the
difference,
the investment. He was much more invested in that second video series than the.
I think that's the point, though, isn't it? Is that it's about being transparent, but it's also about, our industry is so bad, and I talk about this all the time, about talking to each other. Like this podcast is a perfect example. Like, we are talking to each other. We talk on Twitter, we talk on email. Now we're talking to each other on a podcast. But hopefully the podcast will help people to understand how they can help themselves and the industry to be more transparent, to be more, let's say, explain to the wider world what we do and the possibilities and the opportunities and the exciting things that lie ahead. Because I do feel that we don't tell people often enough, like, the what that we do. We tell people, like, you know, like, we protect your reputation. It's like, well, how do you do that? What types of things are involved? And, you know, the case studies aspect of things, you know, you were talking about, your Peloton has been a great case study. But, you know, how many of us really do have case studies on our websites still? I mean, that's a functionality that I took off my website ages ago because I wasn't maintaining it. And case studies were like 5, 6, 7 years old, and I was like, well, I don't want people to see all that rubbish. But you know, it's about that sort of wider getting out of the PR bubble, and stop talking to ourselves.
I mean, it's something that we have talked and thought about a lot, you know, and we've tried to address in one way, and we definitely still need to do more work on this in another way. So in one big thing, but we've got some ideas that we want to bring this to life with in the not too distant future. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but talking in plain English, like, we will, you know, it's one of the things that we talk about on our website. You know, one of my observations about particularly some of the larger network-owned agencies, that if you showed a chief executive or a chief financial officer, you know, those websites and said, what is it that company does, they wouldn't be able to tell you. Right. And so we try as much as we possibly can in our external communications and when we pitch to people and things, to talk in plain English. And whenever we use a word like an issues jump or a news jack or a thing like that, we'll stop and explain what it is we mean when we say that, because we recognize that we aren't always talking to people that have, you know, ever done PR. More of our clients have not done PR before than have, you know, we're their first agency. So we definitely need to bear that in mind, but and we do try to do that. But definitely, I am immensely guilty of talking to industry people an awful lot. I love the fact I've been invited on your podcast. I'm tremendously grateful for it. And I'm tremendously grateful for the opportunity to talk to you. But I am very guilty of that, and I definitely need to. You know, one thing that I definitely think that, you know, the industry bodies, the PRCA and the CIPR, need to do more of is, you know, I'm not saying they've done a bad job of it necessarily, but I'd say they just need to do a lot more of it, is talking externally to, you know, other industry bodies and to, you know, people more broadly in industry, not the industry, you know, and really grow an awareness and understanding what it actually is that PR is and isn't. You know, most importantly.
Because as you know, I started PRs Unite at the very start of lockdown, so that you know, PR people could talk to each other, and it was great because it was, you know, we had some really great conversations. But one of the things I talked about was like an industry-wide PR campaign for PR. And that would showcase exactly externally to the wider world how we as practitioners, as agencies, as an industry have helped our organizations like really like get to grips with COVID, get to grips with messaging, get to grips with stakeholder engagement, but the really meaningful stuff. And I just don't think we've done enough.
Yeah, it's an oft repeated saying, so I'm probably only just adding more fuel to the fire, but PR has terrible PR as a marketing discipline, and we should definitely do more about that. And I you know, it be the change you want to see in the universe, right? It should start with me. So I definitely need, you know, I will take that into what I do next, and try to make and try to be, you know, to try to bear that in mind in what we do.
Yeah, well, that's a positive at least. Well, we have covered probably enough ground of business and parenthood and everything else in between, and it's always a pleasure to chat to you and have a bit of a laugh as well. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to chat to me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I always worry when I normally pre-prep questions before to make sure that I'm not saying anything I shouldn't. So I'm ever so slightly nervous that I've completely unprepped that. And so you've just got
I don't give anyone questions ever.
I know, yeah, like unvarnished, straight off the top of my head. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to chat.
And obviously, thank you as well to everybody who listened to this podcast episode, and the final one of my guests of 2020. Please do leave me a review, and also do not forget to subscribe so that the next episode comes straight into your app. There is one final episode of People by People this year, and that will be me solo doing a little bit of a roundup of 2020, some of what's to come from me in 2021, and I'd be delighted to hear from anybody who would like to pitch an idea to feature on the show next year, because I would love anyone from anywhere in the world with any subjects of PR, communication, digital and tech to be involved. So drop me a line and let's chat.